Look, if you're going to scroll past this, at least hit the like button first. It literally takes 2 seconds and helps more than you know. Subscribe too if you want more of these stories, because trust me, this one's wild. So there I was, 25 years old, standing in my bathroom, doing a full glam look at 7 p.m. on a Tuesday night. Full contour winged eyeliner that could cut glass the works. I'd already picked out my outfit, this little black dress Easton bought me for my birthday last month. The irony wasn't lost on me, wearing his gift to film myself getting ready to dump him. Nathan had planted the idea in my head 3 days earlier when we were grabbing coffee. "Babe, your relationship content always does numbers," he'd said, scrolling through my TikTok analytics. "But you know what would break the internet, a breakup video, like get ready with me to dump my boyfriend. The girls would eat that up." And he was right. I'd been feeling suffocated by Easton anyway. Don't get me wrong, he's attractive enough. Tall, good jawline, works out religiously. But lately, he'd been so available. Always wanting to spend time together. Always asking about my day, always buying me little gifts for no reason. It was exhausting being someone's whole world, you know? I needed space to breathe, to grow my platform, to figure out who I was without someone constantly hovering. The video was perfect. I lip-synced to this breakup anthem while doing my makeup with text overlay that read, "Get ready with me to dump my boyfriend tonight." I added some cute transitions, posted it, and watched the views climb. Within an hour, I had 340K views and thousands of comments. Yes, Queen Energy. He probably deserved it. Can't wait for the story time. I was supposed to be at Nathan's for our weekly wine night, but I kept refreshing the comments instead. The dopamine hit was incredible. Finally, I was getting the recognition I deserved. My follower count was climbing by the minute, and I could already see the brand deal opportunities rolling in. Easton texted around 8, asking how my night was going. I sent back a simple good with a heart emoji. Poor guy had no idea what was coming. I'd planned to break up with him when I got home around 11. Maybe film a follow-up video about it. The whole thing was going to be content gold. But when I walked into our apartment at 9:47 p.m., something was wrong. The living room looked different, emptier. I could hear movement in the bedroom, like someone was shuffling around. "Easton!" I called out, still high from all the attention my video was getting. That's when I saw him. He was in our bedroom, methodically folding clothes and placing them in boxes. Not frantically throwing things around like he was upset, just calmly packing like he was moving out of a dorm room. "What the hell are you doing?" I demanded, my phone still in my hand with my TikTok notifications going crazy. He looked up at me, and there was something in his expression I'd never seen before. Not anger, not hurt, just this cold determination that made my stomach drop. "Hey, Eleanor, how was Nathan's—" "It was fine, but why are you packing? What's going on?" He held up his phone, and I saw my video playing on his screen. My own face staring back at me, lip-syncing about dumping my boyfriend while doing a little dance. The view count had hit 890K. Interesting content choice," he said, continuing to fold a shirt. "Really creative." I felt my face flush. "Look, that was just for engagement. You know how the algorithm works. It doesn't mean anything." "Right." He placed the shirt in the box. "Well, good news. You don't have to worry about going through with it." "What do you mean?" He picked up his phone again and showed me another video. His video. Posted 2 hours ago. In it, he was standing in our living room, looking directly into the camera with this calm, almost sad expression. "So I just saw my girlfriend's video about dumping me tonight." His voice played from the speaker. "Here's the thing. I was at the florist buying her favorite flowers when I saw it. Yellow roses, the ones she always says remind her of sunshine." The camera panned around our apartment. "But you know what? She doesn't have to worry about following through on her plan." "Eleanor, we're done. Not because of what you were planning to do, but because you thought our relationship was something you could turn into a performance for strangers on the internet." I stared at the view count. 2.8 million views. 2.8 million. "You posted this while I was out My voice came out higher than I intended. About an hour after yours went live? He closed the box and picked up another one. Seemed like the right time. Shot, you can't just, this is insane. You're throwing away our entire relationship over a stupid video. No, he stopped packing and looked at me directly. No, Eleanor, you did that when you filmed yourself planning to humiliate me for content. I just saved us both some time. That's when it hit me. He'd beaten me to it. I was supposed to be the one dumping him, not the other way around. I was supposed to be the one with the power, the one walking away. Instead, I looked like the idiot who got dumped before she could execute her own plan. The flowers, I said weakly, remembering what he'd mentioned in his video. Yellow roses. Ruth at the flower shop probably still has them if you want to pick them up. His voice was so matter-of-fact it made me want to scream. I watched him carry another box toward the door, my phone buzzing constantly with notifications. His video was exploding even faster than mine had. The comments were brutal. For me. She really thought she did something. This man has self-respect. The audacity of posting that while he was buying her flowers. Where are you even going? I followed him to the living room. Eddie's letting me stay there while I figure things out. This is ridiculous. You're being dramatic. He paused at the door with his final box. You literally choreographed our breakup for social media while I was out buying you flowers. Which part of that should I be cool with? I'd say. After he left, I sat on our couch, my couch now, I guess, and watched both our videos side by side. Mine looked so stupid next to his. I was dancing and smiling about destroying our relationship while he looked genuinely hurt but dignified. The contrast was mortifying. But instead of taking the video down, I did what I do best. I doubled down. Within an hour, I posted a follow-up, me crying real tears this time, explaining how Easton had completely blindsided me by leaving before we could talk through the misunderstanding. I painted myself as the victim of his cruel public humiliation. When your boyfriend dumps you before you can explain, it was just a joke. I captioned it. I never wanted this. The comments were split, but the engagement was incredible. My follower count jumped to 200K overnight. By morning, I had brand inquiries in my DMs and 3 talent agencies wanting to represent me. Look, I know how this sounds, but here's what everyone missed. I was building something, a brand, a career, a whole future. Easton never understood that. He wanted me to be content with our little apartment and his flowers and quiet nights in. But I had bigger dreams, and sometimes you have to make hard choices to get where you're going. The money started rolling in within days. Fashion brands, skincare companies, even a meal kit service wanted to work with me. I was making more in a week than I used to make in 3 months at my old job. I moved in with Nathan temporarily and started living the life I'd always wanted. Nice restaurants, designer clothes, VIP access to events. My content strategy was brilliant, really. I pivoted to healing from public heartbreak and rebuilding after betrayal. Every video was about moving forward, learning to love myself, finding my worth outside of a relationship. The audience ate it up. I gained 100K followers in 2 weeks. But Easton wasn't playing along with the narrative I was creating. He didn't post anything else about me, didn't respond to my subtle call-outs in my videos, didn't even watch my stories as far as I could tell. His silence was infuriating because I needed his reaction to validate what I was saying about him being vindictive and cruel. I started getting more creative with my content about him. Nothing too obvious, but I'd mention how some people can't handle a partner's success or how controlling men try to isolate their girlfriends from opportunities. I never said his name, but my audience knew who I was talking about. That's when Nathan started acting weird. He'd been my biggest cheerleader through all of this, but suddenly he was questioning my approach. Maybe you should tone it down a little, he said one night while we were planning my next video. Some of the stuff you're saying about Easton, I was there, Ellie. That's not really how it happened. Whose side are you on? I snapped. I'm finally building something real here, and you want me to sabotage it. He backed off, but I could tell something had shifted. Fine. I didn't need his approval anyway. My audience understood me, and that's what mattered. 3 weeks after the breakup, I got the opportunity of a lifetime. A production company reached out wanting to create a documentary series about viral relationship drama. They offered me $75,000 to tell my story. The real story of what it was like being with someone who couldn't handle their partner's ambition and success. I signed the contract immediately. This was my chance to control the narrative completely, to show the world what Easton was really like behind closed doors. Not abusive exactly, but controlling, suffocating. The kind of guy who buys you flowers to make you feel guilty about wanting more from life. The interviews went perfectly. I talked about how isolated I'd felt in our relationship, how he'd subtly discouraged my content creation, how he'd made me feel guilty for wanting to build a following. I cried at all the right moments and gave them hours of footage about emotional manipulation and gaslighting. But then, everything went sideways. A week before the documentary was supposed to air, I got a call from the production company. There had been some legal complications with the project. Easton had hired a lawyer, his uncle apparently, and they were threatening to sue for defamation if the documentary aired with the current content. He can't do that, I screamed at the producer. It's my story. I'm just telling the truth about what happened. The problem is, she said carefully, some of the things you've claimed don't match the timeline we've been able to verify. And we've received a statement from Nathan that contradicts several key points in your narrative. Nathan. That backstabbing piece of trash had sold me out. After everything I'd done for him, all the times I'd supported his own pathetic attempts at going viral, he'd given them a statement saying the original video was his idea and that I'd been lying about Easton being controlling. But here's where it gets really messed up. The production company called me back 2 days later with an update. They'd worked out a deal with Easton's lawyer. The documentary could still air, but Easton would have script approval over any segments mentioning him, and any provably false statements would be edited out. Oh, and they were paying him $95,000 for his cooperation and the rights to use his likeness. $95,000, $20,000 more than they'd paid me for my own story. I completely lost it. I drove to Eddie's apartment and banged on the door until someone answered. It was Eddie, looking annoyed and tired. Eleanor, what are you doing here? I need to talk to Easton now. He doesn't want to see you. He took money from my documentary. I pushed past Eddie into the apartment. That was supposed to be my opportunity. Hey, Ian! Easton came out of the bedroom looking calm as always. It made me want to throw something at his stupid, perfect face. Your documentary? He said. Funny, since it's about both of us. They were supposed to pay me. That money was going to help me get a better place, build my brand, actually make something of myself. How we did. And you were going to do that by lying about me being emotionally abusive. I never said you were abusive. He pulled out his phone and played back a clip from one of my TikToks. My own voice saying, when someone isolates you from your dreams and makes you feel guilty for wanting more, that's a form of control that can really mess with your head. That's not saying you're abusive, I protested. That's just describing behavior patterns. Behavior patterns that never happen, but sure, keep telling yourself that. I tried to push past him to get further into the apartment, but Eddie blocked me. He's tall and built like a wall, so that wasn't happening. Hey, you're going to regret this, I told Easton. When this documentary airs, people are going to see exactly who you really are. They already do Eleanor. I'm the guy who respected himself enough to leave when his girlfriend treated our relationship like content for her social media. I'm fine with that reputation. The documentary aired 6 weeks later, and it was nothing like what I'd envisioned. With Easton's edits, it actually made me look terrible. They showed both of our original videos, included interviews with Nathan about how the breakup video was his idea, and featured several of my friends talking about how I'd been complaining about Easton being too available and boring for months before the breakup. The worst part was watching myself in those interviews talking about emotional manipulation and control, knowing that viewers could now see the timeline and realize I was lying. My own words made me look manipulative and fame-hungry. The reviews were mixed, but the damage was done. My follower count started dropping. Brand deals dried up. The comments on my videos shifted from supportive to skeptical. People started calling me out for lying about the timeline for making money off a relationship I'd destroyed for content. Within 2 months, I'd lost 200K followers. The brands that had been throwing money at me suddenly weren't returning my emails. My content wasn't performing the way it used to, and the algorithm seemed to be working against me. I had to move back in with my parents because I couldn't afford rent without the steady income. My mom kept making passive-aggressive comments about maybe getting a real job and not living your whole life online. My dad just looked disappointed every time he saw me filming TikToks in their house. Nathan completely cut me off after the documentary aired. Apparently, some of my fans had been harassing him online for betraying me, and he blamed me for not controlling my audience, as if I could control thousands of strangers on the internet. I tried dating other influencers, thinking we could build something together, create content synergy. But word travels fast in that world, and everyone knew my story. They saw me as toxic, dramatic, someone who would throw them under the bus for views. The few dates I went on were disasters, guys who just wanted to use me for clout or who spent the whole time asking invasive questions about Easton. My ex before Easton wouldn't even respond to my texts when I reached out. I'd thought maybe we could reconnect, start over, but he left me on read. Apparently he'd seen all my content and wanted nothing to do with the drama. 8 months after that night in our apartment, I was standing in the cereal aisle at the grocery store when I saw him. Easton, looking, different? Not different in a bad way. He seemed more relaxed, more confident somehow. He was wearing clothes I didn't recognize, had gotten a haircut that actually looked good on him. We both froze when we made eye contact. There was this awkward moment where neither of us knew what to say. "Hey," he said finally. His voice was neutral, not hostile, but not warm either. "Hey, I felt suddenly self-conscious about how I looked. I'd been living off my parents' groceries and stress eating for months. How are you?" "Good. Really good, actually." He grabbed a box of cereal and put it in his cart. "You?" "Fine. Great, actually. Just, taking a break from content creation. Focusing on myself." He nodded like he didn't quite believe me, but wasn't going to call me out on it. "That's good. Self-care is important." There was another pause. I could see he was about to walk away, and suddenly I felt desperate to keep the conversation going. "I'm sorry," I blurted out. "About the video, about everything. It was stupid and selfish, and I hurt you for no good reason." He looked surprised. It was the first time I'd actually apologized without trying to justify what I'd done or make excuses. "I appreciate that," he said after a moment. "Really? Are you seeing anyone?" The question slipped out before I could stop myself. "Yeah, actually, her name's Vanessa. She's a physical therapist." Of course she was. Someone with a real job, someone who helped people instead of just taking selfies all day. Someone who probably didn't even know what TikTok was. That's great," I managed. "You deserve someone good." "Thanks. I hope things work out for you too, Eleanor. I really do." He walked away then, and I stood there in the cereal aisle feeling smaller than I had in months. Not because he was dating someone new, but because of how genuinely happy he looked, how at peace he seemed. I'd gotten everything I thought I wanted. The viral fame, the followers, the brand deals. And where had it gotten me? Living with my parents' persona non grata in the influencer world, with a reputation as the girl who destroyed her relationship for content. Meanwhile, Easton had walked away from all the drama and built something real. A new relationship with someone who probably loved him for who he was not what he could do for her image. A life that didn't revolve around public validation and strangers' opinions. The worst part was that my original video was still out there, but now it was being used as a cautionary tale. Other creators would stitch it with commentary about how not to treat your relationships, about the dangers of prioritizing content over real connections. I'd become a meme, but not the kind that brings opportunities, the kind that makes you unemployable. I deleted most of the videos about Easton after my lawyer told me they could still cause legal problems. My engagement tanked even further without the drama to drive views. Turns out when you take away the relationship content and the breakup storyline, I didn't have much else to offer. These days, I work part-time at a boutique downtown and live in my childhood bedroom. I still post occasionally, but the magic is gone. My audience has moved on to newer, more interesting creators who haven't burned their credibility chasing viral moments. Sometimes I think about those yellow roses, whether Ruth threw them away or if some other couple bought them for a genuine romantic gesture. I wonder what would have happened if I'd never made that video, if I'd just talked to Easton like an adult instead of turning our relationship into performance art. But then I remember the rush of those first few hours watching the view count climb, reading all those comments calling me a queen for prioritizing myself. For a brief moment, I was exactly who I wanted to be. Confident, independent, viral. The truth is, I'm not sorry I made the video. I'm sorry it backfired. I'm sorry Easton was smart enough to flip the script on me. I'm sorry I got caught looking like the villain instead of the empowered woman walking away from a relationship that wasn't serving her. Maybe that makes me a terrible person. But at least I'm terrible authentically, you know? At least I'm not pretending to be someone I'm not for the sake of looking good online. Though between us, I'd trade all that authenticity for another shot at the kind of happiness I saw in Easton's eyes that day in the grocery store. But some bridges, once you burn them for content, don't get rebuilt.